Welcome to the Influencer Marketing Blueprint, where we teach e-commerce brands the three-step formula that drives revenue, not just likes. I'm Cody Whittick.
And I'm Taylor Lagasse, and we're here to guide you to influencer marketing success. Let's get started.
What's up, Taylor?
Caw. How we doing? C-Dub.
All right, everybody, we are back with another episode, and today we're going to take time to take advantage of the season that we are in. It is mid-July. There is no NFL, no football, no basketball. It's just Major League Baseball. It's horrible. It's a horrible time, but it is on the horizons. NFL and college football is coming up, so we don't want to waste this opportunity to talk about something that Taylor and I have experience in, and playing college football and making it in the pros, right?
That's right. I just finished up my 10-year career.
Long snapper. I'm still in the league, actually. It's hard. It's hard
juggling.
Yeah,
quite the juggler. It's
a difficult life, but
I'm going to practice after this.
No one can snap a football better than me. So if you are listening and you're thinking about struggling to connect with athletes, and it would make sense to connect with athletes, you might be a energy company. You might be athletic wear. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in NFL or college football specifically in that niche, but want to take advantage of the time because those things are coming up. But before we get to the NFL, the big leagues, we got to talk about college football because that is the prerequisite to making it to the league. So Taylor, wanted to tee you up to talk about kind of maybe, actually even before you start talking about A1, you played college football at UCLA. Do you want to do an 8 clap? No, we don't have time for that. No. But yeah, why don't you break down like maybe your experience at UCLA, kind of what you saw. You obviously have the inside scoop into being in these leagues, and also break down for the audience like these recent changes with what's happened in college football if they're not aware with NIL and things like that.
Yeah. Well, it happened at the most unfortunate time, obviously, as soon as I left. Although I definitely want to be one of the guys getting paid. Saying I played football at UCLA is probably misleading the majority of people listening in. They gave me a jersey, didn't play that much. Nonetheless, was in the locker room, and we can get into some fun ideas of how we can go about activating them in this new world of what Cody already alluded to, NIL. When Cody and I were in college, paying athletes and doing marketing endorsement deals was completely illegal. Did some shady things happen from time to time across the country in in that lane? Sure, but definitely was not a legal play. Whereas now it definitely is. So, yeah, let's talk about how to take advantage of it. I mean, in a UCLA football locker room, 120 guys in the heart of LA. Major marketing opportunity. Plenty of guys eager to partner. And when I was in college, for sure, I mean, you'd see things like slipped into, the players' cubbies from time to time from like a certain brand that I won't name because somebody on the team knows somebody at the brand. And then all of a sudden, oh, people got shirts, and like people would go crazy about that stuff. It's just hilarious. So now that's legal. Yeah, people should be doing all the time, man. And such a massive opportunity. But it's a little bit of background.
Give me an example of.
I can't give you a brand example. Come on, just throw them under.
All right, just keep it vague.
Oh man,
they have a swoosh on the side of their shoe.
Yeah, no. I mean, the school partnered with major brands, so we always got like Adidas wear at that time. I know they're with Jordan now. Man, what a come up! Across the board, they got Jordan now. They get paid now. I left it the terrible timing. Although I do like Adidas. But to stay on topic here, apologies.
Move it along.
800 brand, just to put them fully on blast. Yeah, we'd see guys just get like 800 brand T-shirts. It was just a store in LA all the time. It's like, hmm,
Mhm.
that's kind of suspect, but I want one. Now everyone
Do
can have
you,
one.
do you think it was like boosters? Do you think like who do you think is dropping that in their locker?
No, I mean there wasn't anything going on with boosters at UCLA. That's right. But like players would have like a connect or something to a guy that worked at the brand at like the 800 brand in LA, and then he would just tell like one of these teammates, hey, just go give this to all your buddies in the locker room type thing, and that would happen from time to time with various brands. Like, man, people go crazy about that stuff, and it's just this. It was like seeding, right? Seeding,
Hmm.
uh, but it's just a friend of a friend giving it to people in the locker room, and you see that a lot.
So, okay, so all this has changed. So obviously now all this is legal, like to partner with brands. This has certainly changed like the recruiting landscape of, now it's just fully, wide open,
Hmm.
boosters, schools with like the Texas schools are going to have a heyday in recruiting in terms of just being able to throw money
Yeah,
at kids and
Texas
throw
A&M.
sponsorships. Yeah, exactly. So all this stuff is legal without us going into kind of the rabbit hole of us just talking about sports and recruiting and how it's going to change. If you're a brand listening to this and maybe your target market is like the 18 to 22-year old, um, and it's some in the macro category that involves sports, athletics, that can apply. Like you're listening, is like, yeah, I would love a 19-year-old kid to like be promoting my product, or like I would want to get into their hands. Like how should they think about going about doing that now with like NIL and NIL, to be clear, name, image, and likeness. That's it's not national letter of intent. Well, I guess that'd be a different acronym. But yeah, name, image, and likeness. So yeah, like now this is all legal. Like brands can approach players, and it's not shady. Like um, so. How should they go about thinking about it, doing it, executing it, the whole
Yeah,
nine?
yeah. Um, this could be a long-winded answer potentially, but
Well, yeah, let's break it down.
I'll start with context too. Like, so again, our time, our partnership at the time as a team, our like apparel sponsor was Adidas, and like every so often, maybe like once a month, there'd be like we get new gear in our locker from Adidas, and I still have that gear today. I still wear that gear today. This was 10 years ago, right? And so just to show you how long that can last. But every time that
And it
happened,
shows Taylor's wardrobe.
I'm a
But keep
minimalist,
going.
proud to say. um, no, but like every time that happened, everyone would get pumped, right? And even after we're in our fourth year, still getting gear from Adidas. This actually might sound a little bit entitled, but like people you would think maybe not as much excitement would happen, but we're still getting pumped. Like new gear, boom, product drop, we're getting it. We were never able to get it from anybody else, but if we were, it would be incredibly exciting. Everyone would get pumped up about it. Everyone would wear it around school. Guys in the locker room are constantly posting content in the locker room on their socials. So it just creates this really unique experience to have a postable moment where your brand could have a mass like impact on these players socially, as well as just generating a ton of content. So the best way to get into a locker room, especially with college, in my opinion, a football team specifically, every football team has these GAs, general graduate assistants, that basically are like sweatshop workers, for lack of better words. Hopefully, that's not offensive in any sort of way, but they hardly get paid anything. They work 13-hour days just fighting to get a job. They take like courses that really aren't even, going towards a master's degree that's going to do anything for them. They just need to take courses, and they have the ability to coach. They're looking to get brought on as a full-time coach.
Their dream is to make it big as a coach, and it's like the
Right.
first step.
Right. Exactly right. Bottom of the barrel, but a way to like get into the team is having relationships with the players. Like the relationships with the players with a graduate assistant really goes a long way with them ultimately becoming a full-time coach with the team. Um, and their information is readily available online, their email addresses, and there's a ton of them. So I would literally reach out to all of them, letting them know that you want to get product in the hands of players through them, make that person the hero, because they want to build relationships with the players. And if they can be the person that ultimately drops your brand into their locker the next day, they're going to be looked at as Santa Claus at the end of the day, and all the players are going to love them. Okay, Cody is the GA that gives all the players free stuff. Like, yeah, you want to be that guy. You want to be that graduate assistant that ultimately has those relationships built. And then it's 100% rate, right? Like Cody, when we identify and reach out to influencers out of every 500, 100 opt in to receive product. This is a guaranteed, you're getting 120 out of 120
Mhm.
opting in to receive product here. Um, and so it just kind of guarantees that relationship being built there. And that's kind of, for football locker rooms at least, that's how I'd go about it. I don't know the dynamics, basketball locker rooms. Like Cody, you'd be able to speak to that a lot better than I would. If like the GA route is still like a good route for that sort of thing. But for
Yeah,
football specifically,
college basketball has GAs too. I don't know about all the other sports. I know, I mean, those are the two sports that we know the best. So I'm sure
right.
that's what we can speak to. But if the softball team has a GA working, I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, and the one thing that I would add to that is just make sure that you're including the GA when you send them product. You don't
Yeah,
want
for
to be
sure.
using and abusing, but like definitely make them feel like you want to get the product even into their hands. Um, but yeah, that's awesome. So what about timing of this? Like, when is UCLA football uh, going into camp, or just college football? Like, are they starting camp right now? Like, when would you kind of suggest? And we're recording this mid July, so by the end of July, like people are listening to this. Um, when should they go about it? So as soon as they hear about it, are they taking action right away? Is this What do you think?
Yeah, curious to hear your opinion. Mine here would be, and you can all look this up on Google. Every major team, like in college, will have their like summer camp listed online when it is, where it is, because a lot of the time fans come out of it and watch it for whatever reason. I don't know. But you'll be able to see that. Typically, it's beginning of August. I would see during their camp. It's like a very um, it's a time of little excitement and a little hope because it's just a lot. And so if you can be that like light at the end of the tunnel, a little bright, like brightening up of their day, yeah, I actually think that'd be the perfect timing to be able to do that. I think you could get a lot of posts out of it.
And for people listening, you guys probably already know this. The 18 to 22-year-old is on their phone all the time. So when we're talking about, like when Taylor's talking about 120 players getting product, we expect 30% of those to post. So 40 people posting. I would expect probably higher numbers than
For
that,
sure.
depending on, I mean, who knows how it changes with NIL, and maybe more brands are trying to take advantage of this moment. So they're getting more product than maybe they used to. Nonetheless, this is a great opportunity. So take your
Right.
chances, because 18 to 22-year-olds, and especially with like TikTok these days, it's just people are going to be posting more and more. They're on their phone all the time. And um, especially in that age demo, when we were in that age demo, you definitely want to be positioning yourself as look at me, I'm cool.
Right.
Especially,
Right.
so it's like, look at what I got. Um, and not only adding into the fact of like, this is building a long-term relationship with the player too. So,
Hmm.
trying to add on to continuing the relationship with the player or people in that demographic. So yeah, timing, I mean, I can't speak to necessarily college football camp and stuff like that, but we're going to talk about NFL training camp and my experience with that. But similar thought process on timing, and hence why we're recording this episode here and now, is because this is the time to strike. before everybody goes their different ways, and especially now with NFL, with training camp, like you have every single player in one spot; they can't leave.
Mm.
Take advantage of that time. So, um, speak of the devil, let's transition into that.
Come on.
Um, so Taylor, we well actually I'm a before we transition to NFL. Well, actually, this is a good transition. Is you were at UCLA, you know, you have experience as a player. You weren't, you know, obviously unfortunately on the receiving end of NIL when you were there, but then we talked about this in the very first episode. And if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to Taylor's fascinating background working with A1 and Common Thread Collective and stuff like that. But do you want to touch on real quick too, like what A1 would do with their roster in terms of sending out packages? Because that'll be a nice transition to what I did at
Yeah.
Kalo.
Yeah. So Athletes First, they used to like offer a package called Locker Room Drops. And basically all that was really because on every team, Athletes First had, when it came to, they were niched in NFL, but when it came to NFL clientele, they had the most players in comparison to CAA, WME, all the major talent agencies because they just focused on this one lane. So they had players on every team. They typically had at least 1 to 2 stars on every team that was really like the influencer amongst the influencers. So basically, what would happen was we'd have a brand come in, let's call it, I mean, who even knows? Theragun or whatever.
Thompson
Regard
T.
Thompson Tees, yeah, exactly. Clay Matthews, shout out. No, but they'd come and be like, okay, great. We're going to be able to give you complete access to getting your product in the locker of literally every single player in the NFL. And because we're going to seed, for example, Von Miller on the Broncos, we're going to seed product to Clay Matthews on Green Bay Packers. We just had that unique access to these players and relationships in that way where, okay, hey, Vaughn, we're going to send you 100, we're going to send you 60 products, 120 college, 50 something active roster in the NFL. Can you just make sure these get into every single locker? And that would be the kind of the unique access that Athletes First would be able to provide to brands at that time as a locker room drop. So they'd be able to get their product in every locker of every camp across the league at that point. So it was a very unique opportunity to be able to do for any given brand, and obviously very valuable.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's jump into, I guess, my experience at Kalo. And we'll just jump right into it. So NFL training camp, it's going to be coming up here based on the last time I did this a few years ago. It's going to come up here in a few weeks. Everybody's pretty much starts around the same time, like 23rd to the 25th ish of July. It might be a week later than that, but regardless, end of July, mid July. Um, what we would suggest doing is similar to Athletes First. If you want to identify either a player that already has your product, or like that, you know, that wears it. So for many of you, maybe that's like could be 0 players. But if you do have any handful of, like, you have one player on a team, then you would identify those players on each of those respective teams. Let's say you don't have anybody and you're just trying to break into the NFL, then I would just pick the best player that you'd want out of the most to get the product to, and not like, oh, I want to get my product to Tom Brady. Try to pick more of a lesser tier player than like just the quarterback of every single team. Think about someone else, do some research, and look at the wide receivers, you know, these different players on the teams. And where I'm going with this is you want to address the package to the actual individual player with a handwritten note. So you can identify the order of operations is step one, identify the players and teams. So let's say it's, you know, on the Chargers, it's not Justin Herbert, but it's the backup running back that played at UCLA. I'm forgetting his name. Or Justin Jackson, that's another running back. So you identify him. You're you're gonna get the training camp address. This is literally typing into Google Arizona Cardinals training camp address. Sometimes it pops up right then and there, or you have to go to the actual website. You're gonna send out your product, attention the player name plus a handwritten note. You're gonna send them the product, and the big thing here is you want to send product additional for other teammates. So at Kalo, because it's 2 cents on the dollar for the ring that we're sending out, 5 of each size 8 through 16, because Lord knows they got some big hands in there for the offensive linemen. That's ring sizes. So like if you're a shoe brand, obviously you can't send out, to Justin Jackson 30 pairs of shoes. But I would at least send one extra that he can pass out to a teammate. Because again, going to Taylor's point about the GAs, you're making that player look like, hey, I got the inside scoop, this brand, they love it. So what would happen with Kalo is they would throw, they have all these NFL training camps have like a huge center table. They would throw all the rings out in the middle of the room, and players would come and grab them, and
Hmm.
John Smith would basically say, "Yeah, that was for me," or whatever it is, and he's the hero in that scenario. Um, and then at the end, you're following up with a follow up DM with each player, so that you send out product to after a few weeks. Um, the timing of this is, so Taylor mentioned what he did at A1, and I actually had experience of like throwing in Kalo rings to some of these training camp ready packages with A1 that you guys would send out to players too. Is a lot of other agencies, in addition to sending out just individual products, they'll put together these packages that are like 6 or 7 products in one. So more than likely, if you partner with an agency like CIA or anything like that, you're one of 6 or 7 other products. So the point being is like you better be the coolest thing in that package, otherwise it's getting lost in the shuffle. Um, so that's kind of like a backup strategy. If you could partner with some other agents and get your product in there, um, but um, you want to think about getting the product into their hands individually. And the timing of this with CAA, they all send out those packages at the beginning of training camp. So like the first few days. So really in reality, like the NFL players, they're getting packages like in those first few days, they're just getting bombarded. So in terms of timing, definitely wait a week or two, once it kind of settles down and there's not this initial like they're getting all these products, getting all these packages from their agent or from different people trying to get ahead of it. I would wait a little bit in terms of timing. Um, so I just kind of answered my own question and gave you the blueprint for NFL training camps. But to Taylor's point around the GA, the applicable or the similar person for that would be the training room staff. So there's not a GAs, although there is like low level coaches, but I would think about who has direct access to the players. If you can't necessarily get to a player, or you don't have a player representative on each team, or you don't have like necessarily like, who knows if XYZ player will be a big fan of mine. Like I'm not going to just pick it out. The people that often get overlooked are the people that have direct access to everybody. It's the trainers, it's the head athletic trainer, it's the like equipment managers, and like Taylor's saying with the GAs, all this is accessible online. Going to their coach roster, things like that, and being able to access those people. So
Just to piggyback off this train of thought here, and this just came to like going off of like who would want to be the hero, who wants to be liked, college GA. Another person though in the NFL, I would curious to hear your thoughts on this. Practice squad players. I mean,
mhm,
the person that's trying to make the team, the person that
yeah,
is typically a journeyman, is going from team to team to team, and them honestly being liked actually does hold a lot of weight for them sticking around and having a spot, getting a jersey.
yeah.
So, who needs to be liked? Um, identify those people at the end of the day. So I think practice squad
Yeah,
players would probably be another good one there.
I love that idea. And so we've talked about like the very nitty gritty how to with Kalo, because they're throwing it on their hand. We got so many images and
Hmm.
posts and people saying thank you, and but more, and then also too, like I would just scoundrel through like training camp photos or like the team's social media as training camp gets going, and then because of the ring, obviously it was clearly like on their hand. We got so many images that we ended up leveraging for retail partnerships or different things of that nature, reposting on social. And so there's obviously a lot of value in the short term, in addition to the long term, which is building relationships the right way with these people. And so, um, yeah, if to sum it up, if you're trying to break into the college athlete, college sports space, definitely work with locker rooms in the ways that you can with college football. This time is coming up. Get in contact with GAs, send them product first, even build up a rapport with them, maintain a good relationship with them that can unlock doors for the rest of the team. And then with NFL, get on it by the time you're listening to this episode. Start identifying players, getting addresses, send out as much product as you can for them and the rest of the team, and then just continue to follow up. Definitely take advantage of. And I think the key thing with all of these things is everybody's in one location before, especially NFL players start going to back to their mansions and back to the wherever they live, and then you have to get you have to get their home addresses if you want to send them direct product. Um,
Great point.
so it's a unique time to really get in the door and build relationships with people. So Taylor, any final thoughts on this subject?
No, no. Um, Personal hot take, I would do college over NFL. I think you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck, but that's just personal. You can't go wrong either way.
I like that. All right, everybody. Talk soon.
All right,
Over
y'all.
and out. 10-4.
Chew.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Influencer Marketing Blueprint. If you have a question or you want some help, you can connect with Taylor or myself on Twitter and send us a direct message there. You can also find us online at kynship.co. That's kinship.co. We're here to help you create an influencer campaign that actually works and not just get likes. So we'll be back next week with more straightforward advice, and we'll see you then.